This is Yair Davidiy speaking to you from the land of Israel. I represent Brit-Am, movement of the Lost Ten Tribes. We find the Lost Ten Tribes amongst Western peoples. We don't say that everyone in those regions amongst Western peoples are descended from Hebrews, but we say that that is where the 10 tribes are. That is where they are primarily to be found. Originally there were 12 tribes of Israel. They divided into two different sections. The northern section, that is the majority of the Israelites, went into exile. They were taken into exile by the Assyrians. They got lost. They lost consciousness of their awareness. But physically they remained together and they migrated. In some cases they divided into different groups and recoalesced, came back together. And they migrated. They migrated to areas in the west, and from there they populated the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, other areas. And that is where they are to be found, amongst those regions. And in the future they will return and they will reunite with the Jewish people. At present they do not know who they are. They are unaware of their ancestry. And they are on the whole not aware, they're not conscious of their Israelite antecedents. Nevertheless, physically that is who they are. They are Israelites, they are Hebrews. And they constitute a good portion of the lands in which they dwell, in which they are now to be found. They also influence the national character in those regions. They are important in their own right, and they have a task to fulfill according to the Bible. Now, our own purpose in spreading this knowledge is restricted to giving over knowledge of their ancestry to the peoples concerned. And we do this through the Bible, through rabbinical studies from rabbinical sources, also from secular proofs, from archaeology, linguistics, history, legends, mythology, national characteristics, national psychology, numerous fields that all merge together to give a composite picture, a complementary whole, a holistic whole. One could say that tells us, that gives us, informs us, and lets us know where the lost tribes are, where the lost 10 tribes are, and that is what we have to do. This is what we have taken upon ourselves, and this is what we do, and this is what we are all about. So amongst the tribes, it was the tribe of Zebulun. Zebulun was one of the Israelite tribes. We find Zebulun to have become predominant in the Netherlands, that is Holland, the Netherlands in Western Europe, the Dutch, and we don't say that everyone from Holland belongs to the tribe of Zebulun, but we say that is where the tribes of Zebulun was, along with other Israelites. There are other Israelites also in the Netherlands, not necessarily from the tribe of Zebulun. But Zebulun did have he had a dominant influence, one could say. He left his mark in the Netherlands, as we can show from numerous points of view. At all events, here are some of those points, some of the proofs concerning Zebulun, and that is what we are speaking of now. Now, Jacob was Jacob was also known as Israel. Jacob, when he blessed his sons, he brought them together and told them what he would tell them in the end times. In other words, he wasn't speaking for his own time, he was speaking for what happened in the last days, and we're getting closer to the last days, so it could well be pertinent to what we are speaking of at present. And he told in each and every tribe what would happen to them, where they would be placed, and what would they do. They would do. And he said, according to Zebulun, in Genesis 49, verse 13, he says, Zebulun shall dwell on the shores of the sea. That is the Hebrew. The Hebrew says Chof Yamim. And different translations are given for this, what this actually means, Chof Yamim in Hebrew, according to the simple Hebrew, according to how we understand it. This means the shores of the sea. Zebulun would dwell on the shores of the sea. That is what it literally says. Zebulun would dwell on the shores of the sea. And also says he shall become a haven for ships, and his border shall adjoin Sidon. Also in Deuteronomy, when Moses blessed the Zebulun and Issachar, he said that they will suck of the hidden things of the sands, of the abundance of the seas and the hidden things of the sands, which also is connected to this blessing of Jacob. that he shall dwell on the shores of the sea, shall be a haven for ships, and it says his border shall adjoin Sidon. So we'll get back to Sidon. That is an important point. At all events, the Dutch do dwell on the shores of the sea, well, insofar as possibly a third of the land of Zebulun is below sea level. The land of Holland, or the Netherlands, is below sea level. They have dikes. Originally, it was marshland. It was land covered by seas, and they built the land up. They developed it. They drained it out. They put up dikes and channels, and dams, and they dammed up the area, and they drained the water out, and they recovered the land, and they worked it. So you have at least maybe a third of the land below sea level, another third that is borderline. It could be subject to floods from the sea, and that is where the Dutch dwell. That is what they live on. And the only country in the world that does this. And then most of the population of the Netherlands lives in these areas, which are literally speaking on the shores of the sea. Not only that, in most parts of Holland, even the parts that are not recovered from the sea, most areas of Holland, you dig down a little bit, very shallow topsoil, suddenly you come to sea sand. Sea sand, they're all living on the shores of the sea, they're all living on the sands of the sea. And this is literally what we find. This is literally fulfilling the verse according to this. We also find, according to other sources, other proofs, showing that Israelites did come to that area, do live in that area. In ancient times we find a people named as Zebulun Goy, in the north of Holland, on the borders with Scandinavia, but from Scandinavia, a lot of people moved from Scandinavia into Holland. The Asian histories of Scandinavia and Holland are interlinked. People moving around from one area to the other. The areas are very much one part of one cultural ethnic complex, continuum, and we find a people called Zebulun Goy. Zebulun Goy in Hebrew, it means Zebulun. They switched the S for the Z because the ancient Nordic peoples lost the use of the Z sound, so they used S instead of it. Zebulun means Zebulun. Goy in Hebrew means people. Literally, people of Zebulun. And we have other peoples up there in those regions that have similar sounds to the clans of Zebulun. So this too is a point on the priest's breastplate, the breastplate of the priest in the holy temple. Each tribe was represented by a stone, a precious stone, and the stone of Zebulun was a diamond. And diamonds have been important in Dutch history. Amsterdam was once very important in the diamond trade. It helped develop Holland. And at all events, this is what we have. It also says that his border shall adjoin Sidon. What does Sidon mean? So, Sidon in ancient times was a Phoenician city. The Phoenicians dwelt on the shores of what is now Lebanon. They also, the most important cities of the Phoenicians were Tyre and Sidon. Tyre itself was possibly more important than Sidon, but Sidon was was considered the mother of Tyre. It was older than Tyre. It was considered to be the lodestone, the begetter of Tyre, one could say. Also in Homer, we find, for instance, the expression Sidonian being used as synonymous, as being interchangeable with the term Phoenician. Phoenician is actually more of a Greek term. It means red man or red. Red is also a term applied to the Edomites, the children of Esau. And the children of Esau, they had their own country to the southeast of Judah, in Roman times known as Idumea, in the Bible referred to Edom. But apart from that, they also had pockets of people. They had enclaves in a lot of different countries. They were military elites, and one of the areas where they had a settlement was just beside Tyre, the major Phoenician city. The Edomites were also present in that area, so were Israelites. And in some portions of the Bible, Tyre and Edom are interchangeable. So Tyre, the Phoenicians were maybe identified with descendants of Edom, and also with the descendants of the Canaanites. the cities of Sidon and Tyre in the Bible are given to the Canaanites. The tribe of Asher was bequeathed that territory, but also, as we were saying, Zebulun was also connected to it, or Zebulun was to join it. This is in biblical times according to this prophecy. And the Phoenicians were quite important. They were seafarers, and they were seafarers. They also established the city of Carthage in North Africa, which is now Tunisia, and the Carthaginian Empire was also quite large, was quite important. And we find in ancient times that the Phoenicians and the Carthaginians, who were also Phoenicians, they founded settlements in what is now northern Germany. And they founded settlements in those areas. Most Germans are not. Most Germans are Europeans descended from Gomer, the son of Japheth, or from Edom, or from other sources. But in that particular region of northern Germany, southwest of Denmark, there were settlements of the Canaanites. There was a linguist, Theo Brit-Am, from a professor in the University of Munich. He dedicated his life to proving this through linguistic sources and archaeological evidence, and others have done the same. There are sources in legends, sources in rabbinical tradition even. Ibn Ezra mentions this on the book of Obadiah. He says that the Canaanites settled in the land we now know as Germany. And so we can assume from all these sources that there was settlement of people, Phoenicians, from Sidon in this region of northern Germany, adjoining the Dutch. In the Middle Ages we had the Hanseatic League. This Hanseatic League was based on the cities of Hamburg, Bremen and Lubeck. These three cities to the south of Denmark on the North Sea coast and on the Baltic Sea coast as well, as they had a union, a federation. At one stage a lot of other cities and settlements were attached to them. At one stage they had more than 200 different townships scattered along the coasts of northern Europe. And they were very powerful. They had their own army, and they were based on merchandise, on settlement, and one authority has compared them to the Phoenicians, saying they were very similar to the Phoenicians in the way they set themselves out, the way they were organised. Just like the Phoenicians were traders and based on their empire on trading and establishing trading settlements, so did the Hanseatic League. And the Hanseatic League was in an area where we know the Phoenicians to have been, and this could be this could be a reflection. This could be the meaning of Sidon according to the Bible, because the Bible uses terms extant in its own time, in the time of writing and the time of speaking, to apply them to future areas that also have something of the same characteristics. In addition to that, an old map of Ptolemy wrote this map about 100 CE, but he often used sources from the BC area very early, even going back to Herodotus and 400 BCE and beyond that. And he mentions in the area of what is now Hamburg, where the city of Hamburg in northern Germany was founded, he mentions a city known as Caudinge, or C-A-U-D-I-N-G-E. That is how it is written, C-A-U-D-I-N-G. But according to phonetics, according to linguistic considerations, it could well have been pronounced as Sordin. Sordin is how it's probably pronounced. In Hebrew, the region for Sidon, it begins with a TS, it begins with a Zadi. It has a TS sound, not an S sound. It's Sidon. And when this TS letter, which is no equivalent in English or European alphabets, is translated, sometimes the C is used because the C is also pertinent. So the S of Sidon could have been translated, written as a C. So we have Caudinge, we have Sidon. We have a place which has a name very similar to that. Oh, Sidon, on the side of Hamburg. And this is where we find Phoenicians to have settled, people from Sidon to have settled and to have the same culture and the same setup and the same outlook as the ancient people of Sidon did have. And so this could, in biblical terms, have been referred to as Sidon, and this area did adjoin that of the Netherlands. The Netherlands was involved with it. They interacted with it. Sometimes they were rivals, sometimes some of the cities were members of the Hanseatic League. They were all... this region was adjoined that of the Netherlands, and it was prophesied that Zebulun would adjoin the region of Sidon. And so we have proofs that this region may well be identifiable as Sidon of ancient times. So this too is a proof. So we have these proofs that Sidon would dwell on the shores of the sea as the Dutch do. Zebulun would enjoy the bounties of the seas as the Dutch do. The Dutch are a major maritime nation. They are a seafaring nation. The Zebulun would be having for ships, and the Rotterdam for a very long period was the most important port in the whole of the world, and now it is the most important port in Europe, and as a busy and it's the second most busiest port in the world. It is very important, and at all events, this port and the providing of provisions of acting as a port land for ships is one of the major bulwarks of the economy of the Netherlands. And we have numerous other proofs. We also have legends of the ancient Phoenicians, who are part of the Dutch population, that trace them to the land of Israel, and so on. And there are numerous other points concerning the characteristics of Zebulun in rabbinical writings that are paralleled by those found amongst the Dutch, according to the Dutch writing about their own national characteristics. Point articles on the internet describe when Dutch people write, or what national characteristics do the people of the Netherlands do. In the same way, you can find similar articles concerning every country. It's a fact. People write people post our descriptions of their own people and describe the national characteristics that they find, and so you find certain patterns, and these patterns are parallel to those of Zebulun. There are people who, for which the home life is very important. They're international, they're tolerant, they are a seafaring nation, and so on, and all of these points are found amongst the people of the Netherlands. So it was predicted that that is what the people of Zebulun would be. And the Netherlands is the only country which fits all of these criteria concerning Zebulun. Therefore, we may identify with a great deal of certainty the Netherlands as being Zebulun according to the Bible. Thank you. May the Lord God of Israel bless you.